Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh, man. Firearms Friday. Your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator, and live around the world at michaeldukeshow.com on the internet. Happy Friday the 13th. I mean, the day, I mean, it just, we're, okay, so bad enough that it's Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, then it's Friday the 13th in October. So that'd be that, Halloween, Friday the 13th in October. And then on top of everything else, it is Friday the 13th in October on a day that the terrorist organization Hamas has called for a global day of jihad. And so, I mean, it's like the perfect confluence of events. It's a mystery wrapped up in an enigma, surrounded by it's just, oof, man. Today of all days is the day that you go forth armed just because, just in case, you have no idea what's happening. But you should be, again, paying very close attention to what's going on around you. Eyes wide open, situational awareness, everything else. Do I think anything, do I think anything's going to happen here in little old Alaska? Probably not. But, if it was any day that you should be paying attention to your surroundings and what's going on, probably today would be the day. Just saying. Just saying. So Firearms Friday, of course, is that one day a week that we dedicate to the Second Amendment, to discussions on gun rights, firearms laws, just anything related to the Second Amendment, and all the stuff that surrounds it. So it's just, one of those things. It's what we do. It's what we do. Every Friday, we try to demystify the firearm, because here's the thing. And quite honestly, this is the genesis of where Firearms Friday, where Firearms Friday came from. I was looking for a way to educate people because, I just got, I just got so sick and tired of watching the news and seeing the misinformation. I don't necessarily think a lot of times intentionally. I just think there's a lot of ignorant people out there who basically, spout off, especially the talking heads on television, about firearms and talking. They're basically speaking a lot of times just out of a place of ignorance. They have no idea really what they're talking about, but they feel like they have to say something about it. And so we've seen a lot of misinformation be repeated and parroted by talking heads and the news media and other people. And that was kind of the whole point of what Firearms Friday, why it came into being, and why it was important for me to try and distill all this down into a single day. Because, firearms are an integral part of who we are as Americans. I mean, we're the only country in the world where the right to keep and bear arms, the right to self-defense, the right of people to have self-determination and self-protection is literally enshrined in the foundational documents of the country. We're going to talk a little today about Israel and what happened in Israel last weekend. And while Israel is a great country, and great people, good, great country, don't always agree, obviously, with everything that they do, but it is a it is a free nation under siege. They are not a free country when it comes to the right to self-defense. We've heard good things about armed Israeli citizens doing things like that, but it seems to be all in spite of the fairly strict laws in Israel over firearms, which I think we've seen in this last week has been counterproductive for the protections of average, honest, law-abiding citizens. And we're gonna talk about that today. The problem with firearms in America, well, anywhere in the world really, but what I've seen, especially over the last 30 years, is the demonization and the anthropomorphizing of the firearm in the public eye through things like entertainment, movies, television, again, the news media and the talking heads there. It is, I remember seeing it as far back as, and again, appreciating even as young as I was, the irony of that situation when I was watching the Lethal Weapon movies. When was the second Lethal Weapon 2? 1989. I remember watching this movie, and if you recall that movie, it's the one with Joe Pesci in it, right? And I still remember with stark clarity this scene in the movie where they're standing around in the police department, and it's like the bullpit of the police department. And from every angle, every time they'd shoot one actor or another actor, somewhere in the background was a poster vilifying the NRA and guns. Now, if you want to talk about the absolute hypocrisy of Richard Donner and company. Was it Silverstein and Donner? I should just close the window. I can't look at Hooper the Rooster. It was Harvey Silverstein. First of all, that's there's some serious deep irony there. Nope, just Richard. Apparently, just Richard Donner. Anyway, the hypocrisy of the movie, in the fact that you have this franchise that is making all their money in the glorification of gun violence, right? I mean, Riggs and Murtaugh involved in a shootout every 5 seconds with somebody else, and crazy police behavior, and everything else. The fact that they are making their whole buck on, shoot 'em ups and gang violence, or shoot 'em ups, bad police behavior, because they're also glorifying throwing procedure out the window and just doing it, just going and killing people and doing all this kind of stuff. And the fact that they are making all their money in that way and showing that, but in the middle of the movie, they show posters from every angle vilifying American citizens for daring to be armed, for daring to give money to their organization that would, the gun rights organization that would, defend their right to keep and bear arms, to show that. I mean, this was I'm just 2 years out of high school. Okay. And I understood the absolute hypocrisy of that at that time. And I mean, I'm just flabbergasted that this is going on. That's one of my earliest recognitions of the ignorance and the hypocrisy of the entertainment industry against gun rights. I've been interested in firearms since I was very, very young. And so when I started seeing these things and I started going, wow, so for 40 years, and it's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse, culminating with talking heads like Greg Jarrett and others at Fox News of all. That's when I realized that Fox was, I'd had some serious doubts about Fox News for a while, but after the Sutherland Springs shooting in Texas, where the shooter was stopped by another law-abiding citizen with an AR-15, and Greg Jarrett got on there as a talking head on Fox and started blathering on about how all you had to do was basically push a button on the AR-15 and turn it into a full auto machine gun. He obviously had just no idea what he was talking about. But they're touting him up there like he's some kind of expert on this. That's when I realized that my suspicions about Fox News being just another part of the same blathering idiots as everybody else was confirmed. And so I'm giving you this whole backstory because this is why we do Firearms Friday. Because guns are scary. People have been taught to be afraid of guns, as if somehow if you lay a gun on a table, it will just magically get up and leap up and kill everybody in the neighborhood. I will guarantee you that if you laid a gun on a table and walked away, as long as nobody breaks into your house or anybody else moves it, all by itself, it will sit there until the whole house just crumbles down around it. It's not going to do a single thing. It requires a person to do it. That's how they got that's how they get you on the anthropomorphizing it. They turn anthropomorphizing means to give human characteristics to an inanimate object or to an animal or something like that. Treat them like, so that's how they're doing it. The gun is the perpetrator. The gun is the evil. And how many times have you heard that, when some thug breaks into a house and gets killed by the homeowner, because he was a home invader. He broke into a house to rape, rob, or steal, whatever he was doing. He gets killed by the homeowner, and the local news media, of course, goes out and interviews the parents of young Johnny the Thug, and she starts wailing, "He was such a good boy until he got a hold of that gun, and then that gun just turned him evil. He was an angel. He was a valedictorian and a high school president." Which of course is never true, but he was a good boy. And it was just the gun that turned him bad. Just the gun that turned him bad. No, that's not it. Again, power corrupts. Firearm is a tool. It's a powerful tool. And some people, when you give them power, when you place the power of life and death in their hands, it fundamentally brings out the worst elements of their character. If they could oppress those less powerful, if they could take what they want at the point of a gun or the tip of a knife or the edge of a machete, they will do it, because that is there's an inherent flaw in their character. All they're doing is just bringing it out. It's not the gun, it's the person. It's the person. And so we've been taught over the course of years that we have to fear. We have to fear. We have to be scared. I remember teaching a class one time, firearms safety class, and had an empty revolver were laid on the table in front of the students. And I said, we should pick these up and, here, we're going to show you how to pick it up. We're going to show you how to hold it. We're going to show you how to make sure, show you the different components and how it's unloaded and everything else. And this woman sitting with her husband, when I said, go ahead, pick it up, she just burst into tears. I mean, just literally had a meltdown right on the spot. She was that scared. She was terrified of an empty piece of metal sitting in front of her. Very visibly empty, by the way. It's a revolver, loading gate open, the whole thing. And that to me just summed up the whole thing nicely. This is what we faced for years, is a populace that has been indoctrinated to believe that these are the scariest, most dangerous things on the planet. We'll think nothing about using a blender or garbage disposal or some other a table saw. But boy, I tell you what, you put a gun down and they think, whoa, and they lose their mind. So that's why we've started, because ignorance breeds fear. And what we're trying to do is to clear up that ignorance. Because if you're not ignorant, if you understand and know what it takes, if you know how to use something, a tool, then it doesn't become fearful. And we'll talk about some analogies on that on the other side. And we're going to talk about what's going on in Israel. And we're going to talk about some of the other stuff that's happening around the country and more. Must be Firearms Friday. That was the fastest segment I can remember. I just started talking like a minute ago. We're going to be back. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right. Let me see what's going on here. Any spare howitzers out there? Asked Greg. Bill's like, where'd I put the machete? Good morning. Stay frosty, folks, says Greg. Carry back up until this craziness subsides. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this craziness will subside. It just seems like it's a ratcheting amount of tension over and over and over. I said I don't think Alaska is going to be a problem. And Jeannie says she thinks Anchorage is a target. Well, good thing I'm working from home today, huh? Good thing I'm working from home. Donna says it's a good day to carry. Every day. Oh, Bill says that too. Every day is a good day. Well, it's great minds think alike. Bill says it, then Greg says it, and then, of course, I said it. Every day is a good day to carry. Every day. Jeannie says, if you live in Alaska and you don't carry, I'm like, what are you thinking? Yeah. What are you thinking? Good morning. Black Rifle Coffee commercial about the assault pillow. Oh, I haven't seen some of the. I haven't seen a good Black Rifle Coffee company ad in a while. And you should go back and watch that one. Anthony said, in regards to the Johnny the Thug, going into the house and getting shot. She said, everybody's a good boy till they take two to the chest in someone's living room. Just saying. Yeah. If you're breaking into somebody's house and you are armed, I don't care how good you thought Johnny was. Johnny's a thug. Okay. That's just how it works. Brian said he had a TSA. What is it about Nevada. Brian says he had a TSA agent nearly respond in the same way. We were talking about the woman falling apart when I said, just pick the gun up. He said, respond in the same way when I was checking pistols at Las Vegas. I had the same thing. I came back from a rifle course that I took at Front Sight, and I actually drove to Henderson because I couldn't get a good flight out of Las Vegas. So I drove the 70 miles or whatever it was over to Henderson or Flagstaff, Henderson, or whatever airport. It was a tiny little airport, smaller than Fairbanks Airport. And I had a rifle case, all geared up and all that. And boy, I tell you what, when I went to say, I said, I need you guys to TSA check this. I need you guys to do the whole thing. And I had like 4 ladies standing around in TSA uniforms looking at it. And I'm like, okay, open it up. I said, here. And they're just like, they were all just, Finally, this one older gentleman in a TSA outfit, he goes, because these girls are just freaking out. They have no idea what to do. Well, I just don't know. And I'm like, this is compliant. This whole thing is compliant. I flew down here with this. This is compliant. And so finally, after about 3 or 4 minutes of this, just kind of nervous looking, this guy walks up and goes, oh, no, it's fine. Turns around and I'm just like, oh, my God. What is it about the Nevada agents at the TSA? I've been noticing a surprising number of mess leaking in the border are military-aged men, and they don't appear to be of South American descent, says Richard. It's been interesting. Have you been following what's been going on in Greece and the Mediterranean? There's that one island off the coast of Greece or Italy. I guess it's Italy, where it's just a little tourist island, population of 6,000 or something, and it's just a tourist destination. And they got invaded. You've seen the videos, I'm sure. They're all over the place of these boats just popping up and dropping these Africans off. And they've got like nearly 20,000 migrants on the island now. But you know what's most interesting? Most of these people are well-dressed. They have cell phones, and they're all military-age single men. There's no children. There's no women. There's no, if that doesn't look suspicious, I don't know what does. It's some crazy stuff there. And of course, those folks have no way to defend themselves because EU. All right, let's continue. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right. It is Firearms Friday. And I've got a variety of stories related to guns and Second Amendment and firearms laws and news and everything else. But I also have a telephone. I have a pen and I have a phone. I don't know what I'm going to do with this pen, but I'm going to take your phone calls with the telephone. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. If you would like to sound off, I would love to hear from you today. Any topic is fair. I mean, if you want to talk about your most egregious incident, like my Greg Jarrett incident on Fox News, if you want to tell me when your eyes were opened wide and you realized that none of the news media outlets knew what they were talking about when it came to firearms laws, rules, specifics on firearms, the mechanics of firearms. If you want to tell me when you went when you had that aha moment of ain't nobody telling the truth. Ain't nobody telling the truth on any of this stuff. I would love to hear from you. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. Feel free to call in, ask any questions, talk about whatever we want to talk about, as long as it's firearms related. We're good to go. Back to the story that I was just saying a minute ago before we went to break about, again, trying to demystify this woman having a meltdown when I tried to show her of an empty firearm and everything else. And I always liken it to to this thing about education, that ignorance breeds fear, right? But when there's a flip side to that coin. When you become so used to something that you become inured and you forget the safety laws and things like that, and you become complacent, so ignorance breeds fear, familiarity can breed complacency. So we got to walk that middle line on those things. We don't want to be so ignorant that we don't know anything about it. We live in the fearful, but we don't want to become so familiar and comfortable with it that we become complacent and lax with things like the 4 laws of gun safety, right? And everything like that, because that's when bad things can happen. That's when dangerous things can happen. But I also always liken it to something like, if you had somebody coming over to your house and you're just out back and say you're bucking up firewood and this person is a friend and you're showing them around the house and showing them what you're doing. And they're like, well, what you doing? Well, I'm just bucking up some firewood for the winter, and you got your sawhorses and your crib set up and you're sawing logs down to length, fireplace length logs or whatever. You're just not going to turn around and hand your friend a running chainsaw and say, hey, you give it a try. Because again, a chainsaw is a tool, but it is a dangerous tool. Now, if you sat down and gave that person a 30-minute course on how to run the chainsaw, all the practicals, and you gave them the safety equipment and, you ran them through the pros and cons and different techniques and upcuts, crosscuts, all the different things. If you did all that, then you handed them the chainsaw and supervised it. Well, guess what? They'd probably and you let them run it for, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. They'd probably feel pretty good about it. And within just a few hours of operating it, they could become very proficient with a chainsaw or a skill saw or fill in the blank, a power pruner, a power tree trimmer, whatever it is. That's the thing. All these are just tools that need a minute amount of instruction and care, and always reminding yourself in the back of your mind that these tools can be dangerous and, you need to pay proper attention. Where are all your fingers? Where is your leg when you're cutting that log? Is your stance right? If the blade goes through the log too fast, is your leg in the way? I mean, you should always be thinking about that kind of stuff. Same thing with a firearm. The problem is that we've created the ultimate boogeyman in many people's mind, and they are just absolutely terrified of the one thing that could protect them. And especially for women. This is what blows my mind. I haven't even gotten to the news stories yet. It's Happy Friday. But especially the women. Because, ladies, if you want to know what the greatest equalizer on the face of the earth is? I mean, if you're about women's liberation, if you're about women's freedom and equality, you know what the greatest equalizer on the planet is? A firearm. A firearm. That is the greatest equalizer for, an unaccompanied young petite female that is available in the world today. I'm a big guy. I'm almost 6 foot. I'm broad. I'm bulky, a little beefy. And if I, came across some 100-pound young woman, what do you think? I mean, if you were going to lay money, who do you think would win that if there was a physical confrontation, who would win that? Right? Now, picture that young woman armed. And I'm not. Or maybe even I am armed. Who's going to win? Well, now it's a question mark. If I'm unarmed, it's not a question mark, because if she's proficient and has been, has some training and has learned on that, now it's not. It is the greatest equalizer in the world. You're right. Jeannie it's the old quote, God made man, Samuel Colt made them equal. God made all men, Samuel Colt made them all equal. But it could be God made all men and women, Samuel Colt made them equal. That's the exact truth. Because it doesn't matter if you're a 300-pound guy or a 96-pound woman of 4 feet 8 inches. If you can wield a firearm, you have the equal amount of protection and power at distance. And that's just the thing that I don't understand why the women's liberation movement and the women's equality movement is not out there beating the drum on that day in and day out. Because they're doing a disservice to their fellow women. In fact, many of these organizations are, in fact, anti-gun. Why would you want to restrict the ability to be on equal footing in a physical or violent altercation? Why would you want to do that? I mean, it's insane. All right. We gotta, I'm sorry. Some people are starting to comment on the things when their eyes were open to the news media. Jeffrey says, an idiot news reporter on the East Coast a few years ago reported the increase in deer vehicle strikes was due to hunters chasing deer out of the woods. Not the truth about the deer population increasing, and also failed to mention that the rut growing on at the time of that report. What an idiot expert, quote unquote. Yes, exactly. Oh, it has to be the hunters running out of the woods, not the fact that the deer population has exploded and there's X number more percentage of deer out there. It must be because the hunters chase them out of the woods. You know, it's crazy. Cindy said, I put our girls through a teen shooting class. I considered it like learning how to cook. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? And fathers, why wouldn't you teach your daughters about firearms? If you want them to be protected, if you want them to have the ability to protect themselves on almost equal footing, why wouldn't you do that? You know? And why would these organizations be so adamantly opposed to women being able to defend themselves, especially since they're women empowerment organizations? Can just crazy. Donna says her aha moment was the many confused discussions on bump stocks after the Vegas shooter. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of confusion going on after that, a lot of misinformation, and people to this day still don't understand exactly what was going on there. I don't think. I think people who were making the laws didn't really understand what was going on there. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. All right. Well, the phone lines remain open. 907-433-3150. I'm already up to the next break, and I haven't gotten into my first news story of the day yet. Wow. It's Friday. Stand by for news. As my old friend Paul used to say, we're going to be back with more, and we're going to continue this in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio, free-packing radio. You're packing, right? It is Friday the 13th, after all. Is it a full moon and Friday the 13th in October on the day that they're calling for global jihad? Wow. I mean, could we throw something else in there? Was a white cow born this morning or a two-headed goat? I mean, what other kind of signs of the apocalypse can we throw out there? You better go forth armed today. All right, we got to go. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Oh, wow, I should just shut up and stop talking. How did we get to... I haven't even broke into that. I got a whole slew of news stories here. Haven't even broken into them yet. Oh man. Sean, they hid your comment because you used the guns in it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm always shocked that I don't come back after Friday and found that I've got some kind of community strike against my page because I did another Firearms Friday show. When all I'm trying to do is demystify and explain things and talk about news stories and do all this kind of stuff, I just keep waiting for them to ding my account because I talked about guns again. You know, I mean, I stopped putting Firearms Friday in the headline of the video because people weren't getting notifications. It's like they'd turn notifications off. You know, I'd start the show, there'd be 3 people watching instead of 20 or 30 to begin with, because I put I'm sure most of them were like, I didn't even get the notification. I had to come find you. So stop putting the word arm or gun in my video because, you know, what are you going to do? You can't, you know, they're going to come around and get you. Going to come around to get you. Okay. Good morning. Looking to find a self-defense class for daughter 2. Any experience with Lona in Anchorage? No, I've never even heard of Lona. No, I mean, not that, you know, not that that's shocking. I've never heard of it. You quit talking. You can't do that. It's your job. Well, that's true. That's true. But I could get back on track. I mean, sometimes especially on Fridays, I can get on a ramble. Yeah. Brian, I would agree with Greg. You just go talk to Donna Anthony over at Point Blank. She's got all kinds of different classes. In fact, if you wait until the first week in December 1st, I'm sure we will have some personal basic pistol and concealed carry classes up, and she has women only classes too. She has the ability that it could be a all women pistol class, so nobody feels intimidated or anything. And those certificates will be half price on the holiday auction, which will be on December the 1st. So if you can wait a little bit, you can get that for half price. Not a bad deal. All right, let me go over to the phones. Somebody is tied in here. Let's call in. Let's see what they have to say. We'll get name, number, the whole schlemiel. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I actually have to push the button so that I can hear you because I'm an idiot. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mike. It's Fred. How you been?
Hey, Fred. How are you, my friend? How's things in sunny RI today?
Well, you know, just another day in paradise over here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're in the break, Fred, and I'm about a minute and a half away, so I'm going to put you back on hold, and you'll be first up in the queue. I won't even blather on about anything else or do a news story. So you're going to be first up. So don't go anywhere. Operators are standing by. All right. It's Friday, man. I feel pretty good. It was an interesting week. Let's just put it that way. Interesting week with lots of stuff going on. And I'll be honest with you, I'm ready for the weekend. And then next weekend, we're going to be in Fairbanks for the Go Winter Expo. We got the big Interior Alaska Gun Show and the Go Winter Expo next week. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Sling blade. All right. The TVSA gun show is this weekend. The high school rifle team selling snacks for fundraising, says Jeffrey. Thank you. I will make a note of it. All right. 25 seconds. No, sorry. I apologize. 40 seconds out right now. We'll hear the ding here in just a second. We'll be ready to go. Sean says, can you have Donna on the Friday show, says Sean. Yes, I've had Donna Anthony on this show several times. She is a great guest on that. But it's like voting, MD. You have an obligation to inform yourself and invite a friend to Firearms Friday. Well, that is true. You should invite more people to Firearms Friday, Brian. All of you should invite more people to Firearms Friday. Let's get more neophytes, more of the gun curious into this thing. What holiday auction? How do I find that? Go to AlaskaRadioAuction.com and you can find out more. Here we go.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Kind of a what? I did. Well, he's right. I mean, he is right. I mean, that's how it is. All right, welcome back to the program. Hour one continues. Still haven't gotten to my first news story of the day. I have been blathering on today, but I think it's been a good discussion. It's a good introduction to Firearms Friday for people. Fred is in Rhode Island. Let's get his take. Let's get his opinion. Have I been too rambly today, or has it been a good show? We'll find out. Fred calling in he listens every week from over on the East Coast. Apparently, there's not a good gun show between here and there. He listens every Friday and calls in to give us his thoughts. Good morning, Fred. What's on your mind, my friend?
Good morning, Mike. You're talking about the awakening moments of when people realize that the news media is full of it. And, it's all this anti-gun narrative that they blather on about in the Hollywood stupidity and all the other influences on the anti-gun side to try to push this narrative and get rid of the guns. And we'll have a much safer and peaceful world, which is
right.
All you have to do is look at what's going on in Israel.
We're just going to hold hands and give each other a Coca-Cola, right?
Right. Well, you get countries that's been at it for, civilization's been at it for thousands of years, and nothing's going to change that. It doesn't make a difference whether they have a gun or a knife or a rock or a stick or a bat or anything else. They're going to go at it, period. That tool isn't the problem. However, my awakening moment to the load of garbage that the anti-gun, crowd has been pushing for many, many years was a very long time ago when I was at work, and I was down in Philadelphia hanging around during a break, and had a television on, and what was going on down there was two people walked into a convenience store. This is back in the 80s, at the height of the AIDS epidemic. Just to give you a background to what the setting as to what was going on. And two seedy people walked into a convenience store. One of them walked up to a clerk, grabbed his arm, and pulled out this filthy hypodermic needle out of his pocket and said he had AIDS. He had been tested positive for AIDS. And this was his work for his drugs that he was taking, as to how he probably contracted AIDS. And he's going to stab him unless he emptied his cash register out, and his partner was right there to receive all the cash. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, it has nothing to do with the gun.
Right.
It had to do with any tool that they can use to commit their dastardly deed. And it's like, and I think that was an awakening moment for me. It says, this is a load of garbage. This is a total load of garbage.
Well, we see that. We see that in various countries. I mean, even in places where they can't get guns, it's in parts of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, I mean, they run around with machetes, chopping people up, attacking people, holding people at knife point. It just, when bad people are going to do bad things and they feel like they have power over others, that's when the worst in some people can come out. It has nothing to do with the tool. It has everything to do with the character and the person wielding that tool. There's got to be an operator at the other end of that device, and they're the ones that are to blame. It's not the tool. I mean, and you point out it's not just. I mean, I love how they phrased it these days as gun violence, right? That's actually become a phrase, but you don't see knife violence, you don't see car violence, you don't see all these other types of violence, which all encompass violent crime. You don't see those being categorized. They're specifically calling out the firearms because they want to vilify it. They want to create that stigma in people's minds, and I think it's very dangerous, Fred.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I said a while ago that they got to have a counter media organization or setup, or I don't know, a front as to to challenge these clowns on the media side that are pushing the narrative. And it's not only firearms. It's a lot of things. It's politics. It's this. It's that. It's all this nonsense that they come up with. A lot of this insanity on their part, that wherever whatever la land that they live in, and then try to push it on all of society. And if you want to try to lead all of the civilized world around with like a bull with a ring in his nose, this is it's not going to work. But they get, in order to call them out on it every time they open their mouth up and they spew nonsense onto the world. Someone should be able to take them, call them on the spot on it and challenge them on it. And I think they'd be a little more reluctant to be so willing to spew nonsense, whether it be gun control or whatever, whatever nonsense.
Well,
the global, some aspects of the global warming, and get rid of all the cows in the world so you won't have any methane to poison the atmosphere. That kind of, they say this insanity just goes on and on and on, and nobody challenges them on it.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Well, I think the good news is, Fred, is that many people are starting to realize that the news media as a whole is no longer the unbiased reporting that we've all been told that they are. Not that they're, historically, even you look back at it, it's never really been unbiased. There's always, I mean, you talk about, Hearst, the Hearst Empire. You talk about the newspaper magnates that went on for years. They always had some kind of slant, and maybe it was mostly in the editorial pages, but I guarantee you it made it into the news stories as well. So I think people are starting to understand kind of the fib that, news media is completely unbiased. They're not. They all have an agenda. And whether it's conscious or subconscious, they're all playing into their own personal biases and philosophies and everything else. But people are starting to realize, and really thank God for the internet, because the internet has become a bastion of information. You're able to look at the information as a whole and try and find out where the middle ground is. You can listen to both ends of a conversation from one perspective, from a left perspective or a right perspective or a progressive or whatever. And you can look at those things, and somewhere in the middle, you can figure out where the truth really is. And that's why I'm thankful that people seem to be overall starting to really wake up. Not everybody. Many people are still, dependent on that. But I think many people are starting to take everything that's being said in the news with a grain of salt.
Well, I think the high trend they did, and I'd like to see more of it. More points brought out, against the media when they come up with this nonsense. I mean, they have the right to do whatever they say. The First Amendment guarantees, and I definitely support that. I think everybody would. We're not going to sit there and bias the media. However, they lost their responsibility. I think they had totally lost their entire responsibility in the world to do it. To give both sides of the story, all aspects of a story, not just their particular, juicy points of narrative that they want to push, and ignore everything else. That's I think they should be called out on it. And right away.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that, Fred. And I appreciate you calling in. I hope everything's going well on your side of the world. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Okay, you have a good week there, Mike.
You bet. All right. So, I don't have a lot of time here with the phone call. I love Fridays. I love Fridays. Did I mention that? Chris Chang is coming on here this morning as well? I probably forgot to mention that. I got into my rant this morning. Chris Chang will be joining us in hour 2. Top Shot champion Chris Chang will be joining us in hour 2. Let's go on. I got time for one story here before we run out of daylight. And that is the latest out of New Mexico. Now, of course, you'll remember that Michelle Lujan Grisham had banned guns in parts of Albuquerque and everything. I mean, she's just power drunk, just absolutely insert evil laugh here kind of thing, power drunk. And she was smacked down by the courts. She was told by her own attorney general that they would not defend her in this. The sheriffs and the law enforcement basically said they would not enforce her law, that they were all unconstitutional. So she stepped back a bit after the court smacked her down, and she revised her public health order and banned the open and concealed carry of firearms only now to parks and playgrounds. Now, that's unconstitutional, has been found unconstitutional by several courts. But surprisingly, the U.S. District Court Judge David Urias decided that that can be enforced in Albuquerque and Bernalillo counties. It can be enforced. So this is, I guess, a win, question mark? Or is it a victory that carries with it a bigger problem? Because the police chief in Albuquerque, the Bernalillo County Sheriff, and the district attorney all basically said they were going to decline to enforce this law because they don't believe it's constitutional, regardless of and the judge, even though the judge says that he believes that it is, he points to the fact that they may win on the merits of their case. The people who are fighting back against Grisham's order may actually win on the merits of their case. And he relied on some kind of hanky historical tests for this. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the bottom line is that this whole emergency order ends on November the 3rd. And so this thing may not even be done in court before the order expires. And if she decides to try and renew it, well, let's just say she's going to have some issues. It really, it's going to be interesting to see what's coming. The vast majority of New Mexicans object to her ban, and she's going to have to come back, and it could cost her politically going forward. So we're going to see what happens. But a Pyrrhic victory, maybe, for the governor of New Mexico. All right, out of time. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay. December 1st. Yes, Jennifer, December 1st. The page that I listed's got all the info on it. The page that I've just posted up in the chat room for you here just a bit ago, a few minutes ago, 8 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, whatever it was. It's got all the info on there, and that's where you need to go. Just bookmark that page, and about a week before the auction, it'll start to go live. Let's see. Sean says, something is definitely going to happen. He said, I found revolver ammo in Kotzebue during the Democratic presidency. That never happens. Greg says, the Hearst Empire spawned a terrorist, Patty Hearst. I mean, they're just so many, so many. I think that's the thing. See, we've been sold kind of this lie. And the lie is that news media has always been unbiased, right? That somehow, and even if people admit today that the news media is showing bias, they're acting like it's a recent thing. I mean, just go back to the whole reefer madness thing, and the Hearst, Hearst, and all the who was the other guy? I'm having a senior moment here. There was the two warring newspaper factions, Hearst and I can't remember. That is just one. Anyway, they definitely had a bias. They were definitely pushing an agenda. They were definitely doing all these things. See, they act like these changes are all just recent, that up until now, the news media has been pure as the driven snow. And there are good journalists out there who are fairly unbiased. But I think the best ones, the best journalists, are the ones that acknowledge their own biases, talk about them, and yet still try to reach across the aisle to get the counterpoints to the stories that they're writing and things like that. And that just doesn't seem to happen very much. But it's definitely an interesting scenario and an interesting situation. All right, we got a line on hold here. I may never get to these Israeli news stories. Let's go over here and see who's on the line and what they're calling about. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Bubba calling from North Pole.
Hey, Bubba. What? I'm going to put you on hold, and you're going to be first up in the queue, okay?
You got it.
Okay, you hold on the line. You'll be number one with a bullet. Number one with a bullet. I don't know where that came from. Where did that come from? Now I'm curious. Thank God for the internet. Number one with a bullet. Where did it come from? Oh, it's a song. No? Yeah? No? Is it a song? It's a film. It's a film and a song. Phrase. Here we go. Phrase. It was a song. What means the expression means something or something is very blah 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 blah. Okay. It's not as old as I thought it was. Origin of the expression originates from the music industry. First appeared in Billboard magazine in the 1960s. Meteoric rise, I guess. Meteoric rise. So I guess it's been around for a while. Okay. Thank you, English-grammar-lessons.com, for giving me the answer to that. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you guys doing this morning? No, I have awoken to the lies of the media, the failure of government, and the educational industry. Yes, you have. If you start, Brian, if you start drinking White Claws, we may have to take you out to the woodshed. White Claws are okay. They're weird. I mean, I don't know. Some of the seltzers are weird. I do like the Alaska Brewing. They've got a spruce tip seltzer that's really good. I do enjoy that. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. No White Claws, but I will drink a hard seltzer from Alaska Brewing Company. White Claws are for elderly retired cheerleaders. Wow, you guys got real judgy real quick around here. You know, you don't have any problem with somebody drinking some Mad Dog 2020. But if you're drinking a White Claw, oh man. Okay. All right. I'm with you. No, that's okay. All right. We are, that spruce tip is yummy. Oof, man, so good. Bubba's on the line. We're going to get to the stories on the Israeli attack and some of the thoughts on that. And we're going to continue the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Don't forget to share this show with everybody out there. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Let's do it. Okay.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, and this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday. Your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, hour 2 of the big radio broadcast. After the fastest first hour I've had in a while. I mean, I didn't even get to the news stories. That's how fast it is. And I want to do that because Chris Chang, Top Shot champion Chris Chang, is going to be joining us at about 22 after or so. So we need to get to those quick. So I'm going to go to the phones. First things first, because Bubba from Fairbanks is on the line. He was on hold, and then I got somebody else after him. So let's go to the phone lines and see what you have to say for this beautiful Firearms Friday. Good morning, Bubba. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. You know, this is supposedly National Jihad Friday is what they're threatening us with.
International,
okay?
Yeah.
And I can't help but believe if Ronald Reagan at his peak were president of the United States today, he'd have welcomed the Jihad Friday, and then he'd have suspended the carrying firearms on aircraft for the day as well. He suspended the lack of being able to carry a firearm on an aircraft and see how well their Jihad Friday would go. You know, that's just my thoughts, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, at the time, because you could carry a firearm on an aircraft. Is that what you're saying? Because you could carry a firecraft, because you could carry a firearm on an aircraft at that time. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. As long as it's Jihad Friday,
yeah,
you know, we ought to celebrate it with them and say, "Come on, bring it on."
Oh,
but,
so
you know,
not okay.
Ronald Reagan was there.
Yeah, so I guess not suspend. What you're saying is allowing, but so the president would say, "Okay, everybody can carry that on an airplane. Bring on the Jihad." Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm thinking. Ronald Reagan would have said yes for the day.
Well, that would have been. Well, that would make for some interesting flying. I think I'd stay home that day if that was the case, just in case. You just never know at that point. But all right, Bubba. Well, hey, I appreciate you. Appreciate your thoughts. Thank you so much for calling in today. I appreciate that. Let's go over here to the next caller. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Larry in North Pole, Fairbanks area.
Hello, Larry. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I thought I'd throw out information about the upcoming gun shows.
Sure.
Central Valley Sports Association having theirs tomorrow and Sunday, and then you're going to have yours, the Interior gun show in conjunction with the Carlson Center's Winter Expo. Isn't that correct?
Yep, that's correct. We're going to have the TVSA show is this weekend, and then next weekend is the Go Winter Expo, and that's where the Interior Alaska Gun Show is off to the side.
Yep, I just thought I'd throw that out and let some public know that that may not have heard about it.
And with the TVSA,
I'll let you go.
The
And,
TVSA show,
some other...
Larry. The TVSA show is over at the TVSA headquarters there on Airport.
Yes, their new shooting range building, catty corner across the street there from Fred Meyer West.
Okay. All right. So it'll be there. And when do they open? 10 in the morning or?
Yes,
All right.
10 till I think 5 on Saturday, and then 11 till 5 on Sunday.
Okay. All right, Larry. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving us the heads up on that. Appreciate you being part of it. Thanks for coming in.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
All right. That clears
Bye
out
now.
the phone lines for this morning. So let me try and get to the stories. Rajit Singh over at Bearing Arms writes a story about Israel's gun control policies and how they actually worsened the death toll. The militants in the attack from Hamas attacked several rural communities and the city of Sedrat. They massacred more than 250 people at a trance music festival that had a theme, by the way, of peace. That was the theme at the Trance Music Festival, is a theme of peace. It's just so insane. The death toll stands, well over a couple thousand people, Americans, Germans, Thais, all kinds of international people. There was a bunch of hostages taken. Everything else we know, this is all going on. Israel's reputable intelligence and security apparatus, Mossad, failed to keep their citizens safe. And this does happen from time to time. There is no perfect situation. It happened in the U.S., of course, at 9/11. India had their intelligence apparatus fail to prevent the Mumbai attacks in 2008. But the death toll, according to Singh here, the death toll wouldn't have been so insanely high if not for Israel's gun control policies. And they've got a huge list. A lot of people think of Israel must be, everybody must be armed. But no, they have some super stringent gun control policies. You have to have a license to manufacture. There is no home-built 3D printed guns. There's no building your own firearm. There's no 80% kits. There's none of that stuff. You can't do any of that stuff in Israel. You have a license to possess it. You have to have a license to carry it. There is a good cause requirement, which is one of the things that Bruin just smashed down to the ground, was you don't have to show cause to exercise that right here. You have to have a license to buy. You have to have to operate a gun range, to ship guns. They have to register all guns. If your permit expires, you have to surrender your firearm to the police. Mandatory reporting of lost or stolen guns. Okay, that's, mental and physical health requirements, criminal background checks, training requirements, minimum age requirements, license renewal requirements. But this is the kicker. An annual quota of 50 rounds. That's it. 50 rounds of ammunition. The bottom line is that Israel's gun control looks a lot like New York's or California's gun control before Bruin, except it's much worse. It's so shocking. At the music festival, where more than 250 people were slaughtered, many of them live on the internet, videos, beheadings, everything else, some people managed to fight back. Some people resisted their attackers, took their guns, and then shot back. They saved their own lives and the lives of many others, but who knows what the death toll could have been if they'd not been able to fight. What if they had been armed as well and been able to defend themselves? Here's the ironic thing. Tom Knighton writes in his article, about how he writes a lot of stuff about guns. And sometimes he's so prolific, he's forgotten some of the things that he's written. But he was going back through the archive looking for something that he had written before to spark. Anyway, he came across this weird argument. And was talking about this. This is a story back in September. And he said, if you're a gun owner and haven't actively done everything you can to keep that on the down low, there's a good chance someone has referred to you as some kind of domestic terrorist. people, let's not forget that the NRA was also called a domestic terrorist organization despite no evidence of an act of terrorism carried out by an NRA member. Yet Hamas is a terrorist organization, according to the State Department. They've been linked to all kinds of terrorist acts over years. And guess where they stand on people carrying guns? This is an article, again, remember, from just a month ago. Basically, the issue was a suggestion that the Jewish settlers, there was an issue. At issue, the whole thing, the reason he wrote this article back in September was there was a suggestion that Jewish settlers should carry guns. Hamas put out a press release calling it an incitement to murder and denounced it, apparently arguing that the settlers carrying guns could and would create a danger. Just think about that for a minute. A month ago, they didn't plan this attack overnight. This whole attack was going on, has been planned for a long time. And all of a sudden they start talking about, maybe the settlers should be armed to protect themselves. And Hamas told Jewish settlers they really didn't need guns and that saying so was fascist. Just let that sink in for a minute. Just let that sink in. Hamas capitalized on that. They were going to arm the settlers, and Hamas said, oh no, it would be an incitement to murder. It would be fascist. It's kind of hard not to wonder how many groups that are calling for gun control here in the U.S. have some kind of ulterior motives and designs. I'm not saying that they're terrorist organizations. I'm just saying this is a prime example of that kind of craziness that we've talked about in the past. And finally, for those of you who follow, who are on Instagram or YouTube, and you don't follow the Pew Pew Jew on Instagram, you are missing out. Yehud Remer is his name, and Yehuda Remer, he is the Pew Pew Jew, and he also points out some of the flaws in Israel's gun control laws. Specifically, he talks about the amount of ammunition. Because remember the other day they said that they're going to change some of the rules so that people can protect themselves more now and do all that. They were going to relax the rules. Well, they relaxed the rules. They raised the ammunition purchase limit from 50 rounds to 100. Now, I don't know how many of you have more than 50 rounds for your pistol or rifle or whatever. But 100 rounds, you can't even stay proficient with it. I mean, it's so insane. One couple, there's a story being told about one couple that managed to save their children and kill 7 Hamas terrorists who were trying to break into their home. They were ultimately killed. Their children survived. But would that outcome had been any different if the parents had more than 100 rounds between them? Because they both had a gun. So they both had their prerequisite 50 rounds. They killed 7 terrorists, but they themselves were ultimately killed. They saved their children, but they both died, probably because they ran out of ammo. You can go through 100 rounds pretty damn quick between 2 people. And he points out that the Pew Pew Jew points out that this is the problem, that this would have really, really could have changed the face of what's going on if you had armed citizens in all this. So lessons learned, lessons being learned from Israel. They don't want you to have guns, folks. Just like Hamas said, oh no, you don't need to arm those settlers. They don't need it. You're a fascist if you call for that. It's an incitement to murder. And 3.5 weeks later, they come through and kill everyone. What they want is unarmed, disarmed, unarmed victims. That's what they want. And the they, in this case, could be anybody that's looking to take your gun rights. Maybe they don't have the same motivations as Hamas or Hezbollah, but that is the lesson that we need to learn. People with ARs don't get into cattle cars. That's one of the T-shirts that the Pew Pew Jew wears all the time. It makes total sense. We'll be back with more of the Michael Duke Show.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I got a little long-winded there on that one. Got a little long-winded. Oh, hey, Chris is in the green room. There we go. Just real quick looking through the Trance Music Festival was about peace in a gun-free zone. Well, I can only assume. They always, don't you? They run you for the ringer on those concerts these days. You can't take a penknife into a concert. A Zippo lighter. You can't take, they'd be lucky they don't give you the anal cavity search on the way into a concert these days. It's insane. I don't go to concerts for that exact reason. I don't need, that's just like, I don't need to feel like I'm a criminal just to go to a concert. I'll watch it on my TV. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I'll try and get through some of these other comments, but we got Chris Chang on the line, man. We can't make this guy wait. He is important. He's important people. Let's go over here.
Good morning.
See what he's doing. Man, hello, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. Good morning.
You're good. Doing good. I was going to say you've moved to a new place, and then I realized it's a green screen. But I would like to live there. I've seen
it's
this.
not a green screen.
Yeah, no, it's not a green screen at all. I have seen this.
We just have the same living room as lots of other people.
Yeah, exactly. There's 5,300 people that have exact. But you know what? I was thinking of this the other day because somebody else had this background, and I thought, man, I could live there. That's a nice looking place.
Yeah.
It's got the library in the background for my wife. I mean, I think that's some good stuff. Hey, technology, baby.
We're just one step closer to the Matrix. That's all that's happening here.
Plug me in, baby. That's all I'm saying. Why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill? Anyway, Chris, I don't know what you'd like to talk about today. We've been talking about the situation with Israel. We finally got around to it. I had diarrhea of the mouth this morning. I was just going on and on about just firearms in general in hour one. But so we could talk a little bit about Israel. We're just talking about some of the stories that came out. The fact that Israelis were restricted to 50 rounds a year. 50, that's all they can buy. 50
that's
rounds.
Absolutely wild.
And the man and the woman who defended their family, got their children hidden and safe, killed 7 Hamas terrorists, and then they themselves were killed, probably because they ran out of 100 rounds, 7 people. You're probably out of ammo by that time. You know what I mean? And that's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking when we see what's going on.
Absolutely tragic, and to see all of these gun control measures in Israel having this negative impact on the population is you're right. This is the nightmare that we need to avoid here. And clearly the Israeli government has done an about face on a lot of their gun control laws, and they have reversed either temporarily or permanently some of the gun control laws that they had on the books to enable regular citizens to purchase weapons and acquire weapons and ammo faster, so they can help protect themselves and their neighborhoods.
Well, that's what Yuta Remmer was talking. Yuta Remmer was talking about, the Pew Pew Jew, is that they did change some of the laws, but not that much. They basically doubled. Okay, now you can't have 50. Now you can have 100. Now you can get your firearms back if your license is expired. You can go back and get it and get your. I mean, it's little baby steps. Now, I'm not complaining, because any step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. But when are they going to learn that an armed populace in this situation would make a huge difference? That being able to defend yourself is an important point. All right, we're about 20 seconds out, or 30 seconds.
So one
out.
other thing we could talk about is the new Senator Butler from California, who took
from Georgia,
Senator Feinstein's place. So that could be another topic as well.
She's the new senator from Georgia for California. What?
Maryland, right?
Maryland. That's what it was.
Maryland.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, what Californian thought that's a good wait, you couldn't find in all the millions of people in California, you couldn't find a person to Yes, we will definitely talk about that. All right, well, here we go. We're jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Yes, my grandfather was a gold miner. Somebody just said that in the chat room on Twitch. Here we go. Jumping back in. Let's do it.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
I watch Chris's head explode every time
every month I come on, I can't get enough of that.
I play that just for you, man. I play that just for you. Chris Chang, Top Shot champion, season 4 of the show Top Shot on the History Channel, author of the book Shoot to Win. You can find him at topshotchris.com, also a spokesperson for the NSSF, the National Shooting Sports Foundation. He joins us every month to talk about some of the hottest news and what's going on and everything else. Of course, we've only got about 10 minutes, so we're going to start off with Israel. We were just talking during the break about how tragic it was that Israelis were only allowed 50 rounds a year. But now they've loosened the laws, so now it's 100 rounds a year. But again, we're telling the story about the 2 parents who were able to hide their children, their 6 or 7 children, and then defend the family, killed 7 terrorists, but they themselves then both died. Children survived, but they themselves both died. And I can only imagine, because if you kill 7 terrorists, there's only 100 rounds between the 2 of you. It's not hard to believe that they could be out of ammo. So I think it's not enough. And some people are saying, including the Pew Pew Jew, it's too little, too late. What are your thoughts on some of the possibilities that could have been avoided in this latest tragedy?
Yeah, seeing what's happening in Israel is just been extremely tragic. And, I've been following the news throughout the week and, definitely sympathize with a lot of my Jewish friends. And, it definitely highlights this focus that gun control is not helpful. And in fact, gun control is deadly, as we've seen in a number of cases and anecdotes that we've been hearing throughout the week. The Israeli military was clearly caught off guard. And I know that the Israeli government's going to be looking into the intelligence failures and not only how could they not have detected a large scale attack of this nature, but how come their defenses also failed, once it started happening. And, I think it's hard for a lot of Americans to imagine your neighborhood coming under siege by a foreign terrorist organization. But let's not forget 9/11, right? 20 some years ago, this exact thing happened, right? A foreign terrorist organization came and attacked America. And, I hate to say it, but, it's just a matter of if and when, right? The next
it's not an
terrorist
if.
attack.
You're 100% right. It's an if.
It's going to happen. But so, right, to bring it back to Israel, right? I just empathize so much around how frightening this must have been for regular civilians who were especially near the Gaza border, right? Who were getting attacked by these terrorists, right? Just imagine you're in your home, and then all of a sudden you're getting messages from neighbors saying, right, we've got Hamas terrorists, a guy with all in military garb and weapons, and they're killing people. I mean, that is terrifying. And then especially if you don't have any weapons to defend yourself, and especially if the Israeli government had restricted your ability to acquire said firearms and ammunition and permits and this and this and this and that, all the bureaucratic nonsense that the Israeli government put in the form of gun control. If I were an Israeli who wanted to defend myself with a firearm but can't, or at least couldn't before, but it's a little bit easier now at least. But this is a big day of reckoning for the Israeli government, for the Israelis themselves, and to really question whether the gun control measures that they've had in place have had any positive impact at all. And clearly, at least in my mind, no, they have not. The gun control, again,
Right.
gun control has been very deadly in Israel.
Well, and especially given the fact that just a month ago, there was an issue and a suggestion that Jewish settlers should carry guns. And Hamas put out a press release calling it an incitement to murder. And they said Jewish settlers didn't really need guns and that saying that they did was fascist. That was 3 weeks ago. Right before
Yeah.
they came in and killed all these people. That's the point. And what are we hearing in today? Oh, you guys don't really need guns. Now, again, I'm not saying that gun controllers in this country are Hamas, but it's the same kind of, it's the same kind of play out of the same kind of playbook. What do they really mean? What are they really thinking when they're saying, oh, we don't really need that? Maybe it's a control issue. Maybe it's something else. But it is tragic. How many people, especially 9/11 was a major attack, utilizing planes and things like that. So armed people probably wouldn't have stopped much unless they'd been on the plane, so to speak. But any kind of over the ground, this was an all-out ground assault into Israel. And it could have been house-to-house fighting if those people had been able to defend themselves. The story of the concert goer where they attacked the concert, and some of the concert goers bravely charged Hamas, who had guns, were able to attack them, strip their firearms from them, and fight back. That's amazing stories. And if they'd just been able to do that from the beginning without having to run run unarmed into the line of fire to do it, maybe a different story.
Yeah, I mean, just especially that music festival attack, reading and the details, seeing some of the video footage coming out, it was just heart-wrenching. I mean, how terrifying, must have been for those concert goers to be having a great time, and then all of a sudden they are literally fighting for their lives and having to hide out in the fields waiting for the IDF to come save them. And thankfully for a lot of those concert goers, they were saved, but unfortunately for others, that wasn't the case. And if it's
we can't
the whole
wrap
thing
our
is
brain around it because it's evil, right? I mean, we can't understand evil at that level.
It's just pure evil. And it's just literally, for me, it comes down to this very simple truth that if somebody is coming at you with deadly force, you've got to either get out, and if you can't get out, you've got to come at them with equal or overwhelming deadly force, right? There's just no other way around. And I mean, talking about people getting killed is obviously such a very uncomfortable topic. But look, if you're ever put in that situation where it's you or somebody else, I hope that everybody would choose you, right? If you are being attacked, you should be choosing your own life. And that choice, and that choice involves defending yourself by any means possible, whether it's a firearm, your fists, anything you can. But obviously a firearm is a great tool, right, to have at your disposal to increase the chances that you survive that engagement.
You only have 3 choices in these situations: run, hide, fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Run, hide, fight. And hide is not necessarily a good one either, because then you're kind of just giving up and hoping that the whim of luck keeps you. If you can run away, that's one thing. But fighting, I mean, you got to be able to have a way to fight in those you don't want that unequal circumstance of you being unarmed and 4 assailants that are armed with AKs. I mean, that's lessons learned, my friend. Lessons learned. All right. California, you guys got yourself a new senator. From Maryland. Of all the millions of people in California, apparently Newsom couldn't find one good person in California to be the new Congress critter, huh?
Yeah. He had to search all the way across the country and pluck someone from the great state of Maryland, which we know has a terrible reputation for gun rights. So, with the unfortunate passing of Senator Feinstein, our Governor Newsom here had the right to appoint what he's calling a caretaker senator, for the last few months here of Senator Feinstein's term. Now, Senator Butler, who is the new senator from California, she's a gun control advocate as well. She's squarely in the gun control camp. Now, I think, what is still to be seen is whether she's going to have any nominal impact like Senator Feinstein did on the gun control agenda. My guess is probably not. However, we're here in California. We're clearly going to be closely watching Senator Butler. She's clearly going to vote in favor of all the existing gun control proposals. But, she's an unknown quantity for a lot of Californians. She
Right.
has been very involved at the grassroots level as a union organizer. She's been a UC regent. She's been very involved, again, at the grassroots level, but she has, I would say, zero statewide media presence, right? Your average Californian will have no idea, right, who she is. And so, myself included, it's like I've never heard of her. I've never really seen what she's about.
Yeah, total unknown. And of course, I mean, the good news is at least we're not adding to it. We're replacing one gun control person with another, so it still remains fairly equal. We'll have to pick this up in the break. Chris Chang, Top Shot champion. Thanks a lot. Hold the line for a second. Folks, we got more coming up. Willie Waffle, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Chris Chang. Yeah, I mean, I want you to finish your thought on this because you're right. She is a complete unknown to the people in California. I mean, I can't believe that the governor, again, with all the millions of people and political allies and everything else in California, he couldn't find one. Maybe this is part of it. He wanted to bring a relative unknown to California politics into the mix to do it.
Yeah, there was some very weird dynamics that I would say that the governor self-imposed on himself, and I think unnecessarily. So basically, about a year ago or so, he announced that his intention was to replace Senator Feinstein with an African-American female. And honestly, there was, I think, no reason to really pigeonhole himself in that corner. That caused a lot of waves and controversy within the Democratic Party. The other piece here is he wanted to appoint a caretaker senator, meaning someone who did not have the intention of running for election to fill a full 6-year term. So that was another weird self-imposed thing that Governor Newsom did. And so, that part really narrowed his options because, there were 3 Democrats who are currently running for the open seat. All of them wanted Governor Newsom to appoint them to be senator, right? So that would help their chances of getting elected, to a full term, right? So none of these 3 kind of high-profile Democrats got nominated, and they didn't get selected by Governor Newsom. So, but of course, Senator Butler didn't have to sign any kind of pledge.
That's what I was just going to ask. I mean,
right?
He says that, but is she guaranteed that she's not going to run? I mean,
so there's no guarantee that she's not going to run. And so again, Governor Newsom, I think, actually shot himself in the foot not once but twice here with these, again, self-imposed rules that he put on himself. If I were him, I would have appointed someone who would have had a very good chance of winning, right, the election, next year, instead of appointing a nobody caretaker. But again, as we've been talking about each month, Governor Newsom is planning to run for president, right? He's planning to run for president. Yep. And I think the political calculus here is he does not want to upset the Democratic establishment, right? He wants to keep in the good graces with the Democratic Party, with, all of his high-profile Democrat colleagues. And, his decision, I think, was intended to not upset any of these long-term Democrats. But I think he didn't do himself any favors. I think he's probably upset more of them, in particular, Congresswoman Barbara Lee from Oakland here. She's an African-American female. A lot of people thought she was going to be the chosen one. And when she wasn't the chosen one, a lot of her supporters got really upset at Newsom. I mean, almost, treacherously so for Governor Newsom.
Wow.
But, it's politics. Congresswoman Lee, she's going to need to lick her wounds, swallow her pride, and just pony up and get ready for a political fight, just like she always has. So we'll see what happens in the next year when the election comes around. But yeah, Governor Newsom and this new Senator Butler. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of status quo, right? Gun control in California is,
Right.
I think, here to stay. But yeah, with Senator Butler, my sense is she's not going to champion gun control. Right. I don't think Senator Feinstein made gun control one of her primary objectives to define her entire career in the United States Senate. I don't get the sense that Senator Butler is going to do the same. But again, it's early days. She's an unknown quantity. And who knows? Maybe she'll decide to touch the third rail here and make gun control a central focus for her administration.
Well, and even with all the power and the seniority and the institutional knowledge that Feinstein had, she was fairly, in the long run, fairly ineffective on her gun control policies. I mean, she did get the assault weapons ban, which then sunsetted, and that went off into the... So she was not really... And this gal is obviously not going to have the same horsepower that Feinstein had. So I think we'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not as worried as I think some people have made it out to be. Because again, you're just changing one gun grabber for another. And this one will be less effective. I think it's a win in that regard. Last 60 seconds, Chris, what else are you working on? Anything else you want folks to know about before I let you go?
Well, I'm embarking on a very fun journey of starting my second book. And I'll have more details to share in the months to come. But the focus is going to be Asian American accomplishments in U.S. military history. And probably going to be starting here with World War II. And, obviously World War II, I mean, that's where the greatest generation came from. And I'm really excited to dive in and share more with your listeners later.
Put me on your ARC reader list if you want. I'll be a pre-reader for you. I'd love to take a look at it.
Awesome.
All right. Chris Chang, Top Shot champion, season 4 of Top Shot. Thank you, my friend. It's good to talk with you. Have a great weekend. Okay.
You too. Thanks as always.
All right. Thanks so much. All right, folks, that's it. We're coming up to it. We got more. The Michael Duke Show, Willie Waffle up next. Let's do this thing. All right. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming on board. Friday edition, Michael Duke Show. Do I sound excited? I'm so excited. It's Friday. I can't wait for this to be here. Speaking of excitement, Willie Waffle. There's a guy that just you can't keep down. Can't keep a good man down. And here he is. Hello, my friend. What's happening?
How are you not excited for Friday? Friday is the greatest day of the week because you got the whole weekend ahead of you. Have I ever told you Friday night is my favorite night of the entire week because, I'm done with work. I'm hanging out. I got the whole weekend in front of me. I don't really care if I stay up late because, hey, I can sleep in tomorrow. It's Saturday.
You like to party? Is that what you're saying? I like to party. Friday nights is my night to party.
I don't know if it's so much I like to party or I like to watch late night television. And, Live on Patrol is on Friday nights from 9 until midnight. That is some TV watching.
What is
baby.
that like? Is that like is that like Cops or something, or what is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it's like. They're live and on their patrol with these various police forces around the country, and you see things unfolding in front of them, and you just can't believe that. Oh my God, America is falling apart at the seams.
It's like a train wreck. You just can't look away.
You can't look away because people are just crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of train wrecks and crazy people, let's talk about Amber Heard and Aquaman 2. I just saw the trailer for this the other day with Terry, and we watched it, and I looked at her and said, did you see the 0.25 seconds that they showed Amber Heard right in the middle of that thing? That was it. I mean, that was all you saw of her in this huge trailer with Nicole Kidman and Jason Momoa and all the other actors that are in there. You saw Amber Heard for 0.25 seconds. It was like a flicker, and that was it. And because, I'm surprised she's even back. Give me the rundown here.
Well, frankly, let's be honest, that 0.25 seconds was probably an accident. Like nobody picked up on it. Yeah. No, it turns out that things between Amber Heard and Warner Brothers and everybody with the Aquaman movie has been a disaster. And it's so bad. And this is what really gets me. It's so bad. Variety is running a story about this. So, what they found out is that, that they went out there and they started digging up the dirt, about everything that's been going on during the whole Aquaman saga. See, during the big Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, they subpoenaed her therapist's notes about sessions that they had.
Right.
And these are now public record. And a whole bunch of Johnny Depp fans paid the money to get them, copied and out into the public. And Variety grabbed and went, there's some juicy stuff in here. For example, oh man, where do I even start? How about the day that Jason Momoa allegedly showed up on the set drunk and dressed like Johnny Depp to antagonize her? This is awesome.
I mean, this is
fantastic.
Allegedly. I mean, did it really happen? I mean,
Allegedly.
Who knows?
Allegedly. His PR people's response was, hey, he is always thoroughly professional. He might enjoy a beer here and there, but he wasn't drunk. And hey, he kind of dresses like Johnny Depp anyways.
Right. Well, it's true. It is kind of true. They have a very similar style, She claims that he tried to have her fired from the set.
Tried to have her fired. Basically said she's got to go. We have bad chemistry. She's dragging down the movie. The director, James Wan, he was right. He was right there with Momoa and everybody else. He wanted her out. They were worried about a lot of things, and a lot of it had to do with just all this simmering, paparazzi story about what's going on between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. And, James Wan allegedly ordered her not to post anything on social media about the movie, allegedly told everyone on the set, don't take pictures with Amber Heard, don't put them out there, don't let anybody know she's in this movie. And when they really put the hard push on to fire her, this is my favorite part. Her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, stepped in, and he had his high-powered lawyers send a letter to Warner Brothers threatening that he's going to burn their house down if they fire her. And I think that means I'm going to uncover all the nasty things that we all know about you, and I'm going to hurt you.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, I think, quite honest, yeah. After watching the whole, because my wife was fascinated with the whole court case, so I saw a lot more of it than I ever would have watched normally. She's a bundle of madness. I mean, that chick is, Johnny's weird, don't get me wrong, but she is, wow. I don't think she's ever going to, the only reason she's still in this movie is because she was contractually obligated for this movie. I don't think you'll be seeing her on the big screen anytime in the near future.
Oh, no. And matter of fact, the stories that have been coming out in addition to this are that they're trying in every way to cut every scene they possibly can of her in this movie. They want to reduce her down to the smallest role possible, so that it doesn't destroy the movie. Because her character is kind of important. There's going to be something that happens that's going to be kind of a big deal. And, they're trying to figure out how they can get around acknowledging her and still having the storyline move forward.
Right.
So that's going to be kind of the hard part. And I think, like you said, she was contractually obligated to be in the movie, and her boyfriend was going to throttle Warner Brothers if they cut her out.
I don't know. Again, she's full of crazy. She is full of crazy.
Oh, they're both. I mean, that was just toxic relationship 101 with those two.
Yeah,
oh my God.
All right. Moving on to other Mean Girls. How about the Mean Girls? Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Seyfried, and Lacey Chabert. Are they back? Are they back together? What's going on?
They are back together. So, last weekend, they were seen all over Los Angeles filming what has been reported to be a Pepsi commercial. And I'm thinking it's going to be a Super Bowl commercial. And why am I thinking that? Because they were seen riding around in a convertible, but also on a football field. Well, Pepsi always likes to do a big commercial for the Super Bowl.
Right.
And what would be bigger than, I mean, this is a kind of a big deal. Reuniting 3 of the 4 Mean Girls. People who had pictures of this and who had seen this reported that there were lots of allusions to the Mean Girls movie. Matter of fact, one of them had like a purse that had their tagline, "On Wednesdays we wear pink." So this is happening. And it looks like it's going to be a big Super Bowl commercial for Pepsi.
Millions of dollars to produce, millions of dollars to air. Then it goes in the bucket, and I watch it on YouTube later because who watches the Super Bowl? Anyway.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's anti-American to be so anti-sports, but I could really.
It's all right.
I just don't even care.
But this is just Pepsi cashing in on the Mean Girls phenomenon. I mean, they've been on a roll. The musical was a big hit on Broadway. It's now touring America. You're going to have a movie of the musical that was originally just supposed to be on Paramount Plus, and they started doing the numbers. They realized this thing's going to be successful enough. It's hitting theaters in January.
Oh, wow.
Oh, January, when we start thinking about the Super Bowl and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Crossover. All right. Let's see. One last thing. The Crow, not the movie, but the episodic television show on Netflix. Apparently,
The Crown.
The Crown. I'm sorry. I said Crow. I meant Crown. The Crown. It's going to be split. I hate this so much. It's going to be split. Go ahead.
Yeah, Netflix, normally likes to drop everything in one fell swoop like they did this week with the fall of the House of Usher. But there are certain things that they kind of split up to make you get a couple of months of subscriptions. And that's what they're going to do with The Crown. So, yes, Netflix is breaking up their final season into 2 parts. The first one's going to debut on November 16th. They're going to have 4 episodes dropping on the 16th. Then the second part will debut a month later on December 14th, when you'll get to see the final 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So, I know what that means. I know what that means for you.
Yeah.
On December 15th, you're going to be sitting down and watching all 10.
Yeah, right. Well, my wife will. This is she loves this show. I've never seen it, but she loves it.
Good.
She'll be watching. I still remember when they broke the final season of Lucifer up, but they broke it up into 2 parts, and it was like 10 months apart or something. And I was just like, I hate all of you people. Anyway, it is what it is. All right, let's move on to the streams and the movies. Painkiller, the Tylenol murders documentary.
The big movie out this week obviously is the Taylor Swift concert movie.
Right.
It's going to be playing in theaters, but that means there's all sorts of really cool things to check out on streaming. So Painkiller, the Tylenol murders. This is a Paramount Plus kind of mini series. It's 5 episodes. It's a documentary, and it's all about the 1982 Tylenol poisoning. And for people who didn't live through it, this was one of the big stories. This was one of the massive stories.
Right.
That, just a little bit before, about a month before Halloween, people around the Chicago suburbs had purchased Tylenol that was poisoned. And I think it was 7-8 people died horribly died in about a week's time. And it became one of the biggest manhunts that we've ever seen. As they tried to find who's the madman who did this? Who would do it? Was it an inside job? Was it somebody who broke into the packaging at the stores? And it changed the packaging that we have on all of our medicines today. This is why, I talk to young people about this, and there wasn't a safety seal back then.
Right.
The boxes were just folded closed. You could open it up. You could open the bottle. You could count the pills right there in the store. You could touch them.
Yeah.
And that's why this happened.
Yeah.
And so, it goes into a lot of that. It goes into the lives of the people who unfortunately lost their lives. But it does focus in on kind of the main suspect. And I don't want to give it away too much, but this did happen like 41 years ago. They never caught the person who did it.
I remember that. I remember this whole thing. I remember this whole thing. I was just getting into high school, and I remember this whole thing going down, and I was like, wow. People were spooked. They were pulling Tylenol off the shelves across the country, and it was crazy. All right, -1 to 4 waffles on Painkiller. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm at like 3. I think the first 4 episodes are really solid. The 5th episode felt like they just kind of put it together because they wanted a 5th episode. But they do go a great deal into the person who, the FBI, they won't say it, but they're convinced this is the guy who did it. They just couldn't get him.
And he's been under surveillance for the remainder of his natural life.
Oh yeah, and they go into that a lot in the fourth episode. It's
Interesting.
really interesting.
Interesting. All right. Well, we heard Frasier was coming back. I've watched a few episodes of Frasier. It was never, I mean, it was funny, but sitcoms are not my thing. So, but they're rebooting it. They brought it back. It's not a reboot. I guess it's a sequel or whatever. Give me the rundown.
Yeah, I mean it's a continuation of Frasier and his story, and we are now kind of catching up years later after everything that happened with the radio station. It turns out it's the kind of the week after Frasier's dad dies, and
That's
so
it.
he's traveling. He's in Boston to see his kid, and he starts to realize that he wants a better relationship with his son. So he's going to stay in Boston, and he's going to work on that relationship, whether his son likes it or not. And it really is a traditional sitcom. I mean, it feels like a relic in a lot of ways. I mean, it just is not made like modern sitcoms are. It's not really that one camera style. It's not confessional to the screen. It really is a 3 camera style. Set them up, throw the punchline, everybody laugh, and we move on kind of sitcom. And Kelsey Grammer is still very good as Frasier. I mean, this guy created one of the best television characters ever.
Right.
And he knows how to play him. He knows how to make it happen, and he makes it endearing enough to want to kind of keep watching and see what's going to happen. Especially since he's starting to realize I need to do a better job as a father, and I think that's something a lot of people will relate to. It's solid. I'm at like 2.5 waffles. I mean, I'm not going to sit down and binge every episode I possibly can, but I'll probably see them all in some fashion.
Right, you'll fill in. Meanwhile, speaking of binging, we got about just under 2 minutes here. The latest Michael Flanagan joint, The Fall of the House of Usher. Oh, baby, I can't wait. I know it just came out last night. Have you snuck in an episode or two? Give me a rundown here.
Oh yeah, I have. Okay, yeah. So this is on Netflix, right? And every episode is named after a Edgar Allan Poe story because The Fall of the House of Usher is one of his stories as well. And it is a tale of a famous pharmaceutical company, one that rose to great prominence and wealth through lies, fraud, distortion. Sound familiar? Yeah, it probably does. And what has happened is they're on trial for their lives and for their company. And while this is happening, every single member of the family dies in a 2-week span. And so the entire series is looking back at the history of the company, the history of the family, but more importantly, what happened in those 2 weeks and why did it happen?
All right.
Yep.
-1 to 4 waffles. Give it to me quick.
I'm at 3.5 right now.
Oh, man.
I'm
I
really
can't wait.
enjoying this.
All right.
Yep.
Well, folks, we're out of time. Monday's another day. I got to go, unfortunately. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Well, we could have cut some of the other stories out because I wish the radio.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's fine. We got the folks who are still with us here right now. Michael Flanagan does he's an amazing storyteller. And he does such a great job of building up the suspense and everything else. It's just amazing to watch. I didn't know what the premise of this was, but this sounds super interesting. So you can give me a little bit of a longer description.
I love
here.
it. Yeah. I mean, I really like it. It's part mystery. It's part supernatural, right? The mystery that they're laying out that, so how do I don't want to give away too much, but something happens during the trial that's critical. And so the mystery is, well, how did this happen? Where did this come from? Who's responsible? So you've got that mystery playing along. Then you've got the supernatural as you see the things that have been happening to this family over the years and figures that appear in different stories and different time periods and different eras. that shouldn't be appearing in all of those places, and why are they?
Yeah.
You know, and what is really happening to our main character, played by Bruce Greenwood, who's been, the patriarch of this family. He and his sister, made it famous, made it rich, made it successful, and he is going through something that makes you question, how in touch with reality is he, or is he more in touch than you could ever believe because of the events that are occurring in front of him?
Oh man, this stuff is so crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really cool.
With Hill House, he played around in the Flanagan kind of played around with time and everything else, and when it pays off at the end, you're like, what the actual. I mean, just like, wow, your mind is blown. And then with Bly Manor, there were some different things that happened there. I mean, he's always got something at the end. You're just like blown away by it.
Yeah.
And so I am Terry is so looking forward to this. We both actually love Michael Flanagan as a director. So this should be, this, and if you haven't, folks listening, haven't watched any of his stuff, you should go watch Midnight Mass, The House on Haunted, excuse me, The House on Haunted Hill, and Bly Manor. Those,
The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are three great ones. He's got a bunch of other movies too, but those are his three latest. And this just sounds amazing. And of course, he's using a lot of the same cast, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, he has his own group of actors that star in all the different series, and they just play different roles.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the fun part. I mean, we've got a little bit more star power in this one now. Bruce Greenwood is in here. Mark Hamill is in here,
right?
Playing a vital role. But and I think that's the fun part for I think people like you and me. We've watched all these and we've loved them, and we've loved the cast, and it's quite amazing how each one of them plays such wildly different characters from story to story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A great example in here, Kate Siegel, who actually is Mike Flanagan's wife,
right?
Plays one of the daughters of this family, the PR maven, and she's so completely different than you've ever seen her in any of the other series, and she's fantastic and funny, and it's great to watch. And so you get these great acting performances that go along with just cool storytelling.
Yeah, no, and I love that. I love the fact, and it seems like more people. Ryan, what's his face from American Horror Story, is doing the same thing. He's got like a set group of actors. Yep. Flanagan does it. A couple other people have kind of done that thing where they just change the story, new stories, same players, and it kind of harkens back to the old days of the Playhouse, where the same actors would go in and do different, But I really, when you find actors that are good, and all of his actors are amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, you're just blown away. You're blown away by it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. We might binge watch it this weekend. We'll have to see how to. So 3.5 waffles for the fall of the House of Usher. All right. A retelling of an old story. We love it. We love it. We love it. We want to hear what happens with it. All right. Next week, what's coming up, Willie?
Next week, we were talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese and his group of actors are doing another movie.
Okay, great. Well, and by then we probably will have some numbers on the tail. I don't care. I could care less about Taylor Swift, but I am interested to see what kind of phenomenon she is at the box office. We'll have some numbers. That should be interesting as well.
It'll be massive.
It'll be massive. All right, my friend. Well, I will talk to you next week then. Thanks so much.
See you next week.
Folks, we're done. We're done. Gotta go. I got stuff to do. I know. I got stuff to do. Hopefully it doesn't snow and freeze and stay this weekend. That's all I'm praying for right now. Pray with me now. No sticking snow. That's all I want. We'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Be kind, love one another, live well.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.